Okay, it says I'm live, but I'll have to step away soon to pour the boiling water through the coffee filter. My coffee cup is empty. Anyway, it's a gloomy day and everything's getting shut down for to take simple precautions. Well, hi, Google account. Ooh, still writing your book. Good for you. I'm still writing mine. People cannot be trusted to take simple precautions like stay home when you're sick, wash your hands often and thoroughly with warm water and soap. Don't go out if you're sick, or if you must go out, spread your virus to others. Just pray that people don't. Ah, just so people don't. Hi, Evie. Just so people don't catch your germs. Most doctors' offices and hospitals give you a free disposable mask for that purpose. All right, gotta get my coffee. Actually, I have to wait while the water percolates through the filter. It's like a Melita setup. The times cheaper and work just as well. Let's see. Owl in Daylit Nights is a title you thought of. Good. Good for you. I'm the only one who is not allowed to use the owl in my books, and I'm not even allowed to discuss the negotiations that resulted in that. But this year I get the last payment for royalties on Phil's work that I collaborated on, and it isn't much. And after this year, I don't get any more, so I have to make it on my own. Oh no. Oh, your father's a doctor, Evie? Well, I'm in my 60s. I'll be 66 in June, assuming that I live that long, and I'm sure I will. Look, this virus is nothing to sneeze at, to coin a phrase, a pun. This virus is dangerous to the elderly, the very young, and people with compromised immune systems. Don't take it lightly, but don't run to the store and buy all the toilet paper for crying out loud. If you really want to hoard for the end of the world, buy all the booze and cigarettes. Buy all the beer and the liquor and the cigarettes. And you might as well get the vaping pens while you're at it. They're much more valuable than toilet paper and they have few alternatives. I suppose you could make jailhouse wine. You put some pieces of fruit in water and let it ferment. Ew, it makes this nasty stuff. But I guess people in jail are desperate. They get extra time on their sentences if they get caught making jailhouse wine. Well, I bought a pint of vodka about 10 years ago, and it's still half full, so I'm okay. Time to check on the coffee filter or filter coffee. Okay, it has a ways to go because I pour in, first I moisten the coffee ground, and after that's gone through, I pour in more water. That gets the best flavor, in my opinion. Well, strontium, the new voluntary confinement lifestyle is what I've been doing anyway. I seem to have caught Phil's uh, agoraphobia. I don't like to leave the house. I don't even like to go out in my yard except in the spring when I can plant my garden. However, I do have to go get my mail. They don't bring it to the house up here on the mountain. Even though I live alone with a cat, I wash my hands quite carefully and often, and I'm only picking up my own germs, but if someone should come over, I don't want my germs hanging around. No, strontium is a cocooning like has a cocooning lifestyle too. I do what I can. I live in a small town where people help each other, so I've received help and given help. The funniest thing was when an old friend who's really into booze and maybe drugs asked me for some cigarettes. I was out, but since I knew her and had known her for years, I went ahead and gave her $10 to buy cigarettes. She probably bought booze and drugs, but oh well. Not my problem. Once you hand the money to someone, it's their money, and you have no say over how they spend it. So either you give the money or you don't. Speaking of money, I'm financially pretty stable this time of year, but I've lost gigs because there are that all the conferences and conventions have been canceled. I don't know how I was going to manage to be in a strange place with lots of people anyway, but I could have sold signed copies of my books. And I sell them quite reasonably, $10 or $12 each. Asimov's The Naked Sun. I don't think I've read that, Strontium. Oh, that sounds awful. Thousands of miles away. Well, many of my listeners are thousands of miles away. I've got one in Ireland who talked me into getting this thing called Transfer Wise, lets you send foreign currency and exchanges it for dollars or whatever. And he sent me $40, which will be quite helpful because I haven't actually got my money yet, and it boosted my total in my bank so I can pay for the internet and phone. If you don't live in the United States or if you don't live on a mountain, you probably don't understand how expensive it is to have phone and internet. Start with $65 a month for the phone because I have to have unlimited data. And then for the internet, $20 a month for each device. That's the phone, the tablet, and the computer. So we're up to 125 right there. And then they add taxes and fees. And by the way, the reason I have to have unlimited data is that's actually the internet that Verizon provides. You get 15 gigs a month of actual internet, which I use in 2 or 3 days. Yeah, $65, but that includes the data for my internet connection that allows me to use the internet every day instead of 2 or 3 days. Now, if I can come up with the setup fees and whatever they require, I can get cable internet at home and I can get the cell phone knocked down to something much cheaper. But I have to come up with all the, I think there's a deposit plus, um, yeah, there's equipment. So, but if I can divorce my internet from my cell phone, I can get much cheaper service. Although the cable services up here are not particularly reliable, at this time, being on the mountain in the middle of most of our shops are mom and pop. Anyway, cable tends to go out quite often, especially if the wind comes up and tree branches fall on the cables, and it can take them forever to fix it. And back when I had charter cable for telephone and internet, I think it was 85 a month. Um, I was constantly having to reset the modem. Plus, because I had neither phone nor internet. Plus, if I had to have them come fix it, there was another charge for service. Yeah, so overall, I'm better off with a cell phone for communication, but I need to get set up with a better internet service. You've probably noticed that my YouTube live videos keep getting interrupted because Verizon's service isn't the greatest. So sorry you lost power, Strontium. At one point, some people on this mountain were out of power for 3 days or more. The longest at my house was a day and a half, just enough for most of my food to go bad. Fortunately, I have things like dried beans and rice and a lot of canned food. But anyway, it's getting so ridiculous with this virus that the food banks are shutting down. I don't know how the needy, truly needy people are going to get by. I get food from them, but I often redonate it to a local church because no matter how many people are in your household, you get the same amount. So, like, I got a stack about this high, almost a foot, of sliced turkey lunch meat. I couldn't eat all of it, and I could only freeze so much. My freezer is tiny, and I have other things in there. So I shared it with the needy, the truly needy who have 2 or 3 children to feed. Anyway, it's time to check my coffee again. I want my coffee. Oh. Oh, and by the way, a nice good Samaritan brought me a pack of cigarettes. They're even the right brand. Here they are. I have quarters saved up to go to the laundromat. I'm tired of telling people I don't need more clothes. I need to do my laundry. And I have a washing machine sitting in the driveway under tarps because it has to get hooked up, and it's just not going to happen until this weather goes away. We've had rain, hail, how windy it's been, and my porch swing is lying on the ground again. The wind just blows it over, and if I turn it 90 degrees, it tears the canopy apart. And I've already repaired that canopy once. I'm going to. Well, that's not entirely true. The side that I repaired last year held up, but the other side that didn't break last year is broken now. Okay, one cigarette. Hmm. I've had to cut way down on smoking, which is probably a good idea anyway. If I caught any virus, a corona, regular flu, measles, whatever, I could be in big trouble. But every time I quit, it'll last about 3 days, and then I'm ready to kill the cat. The cat apparently is hooked on cigarettes too, or else she knows that my behavior is weird, and she does the constant pest tube on there, and you turn the crank. That way you get to choose your tobacco. The only problem is it's hard to get their, critical or necessary, and they're getting shut down. They got a word for that. It isn't unnecessary, but that's what it means. Restaurants are, they're recommending that restaurants shut down and just do takeout and delivery. It isn't an order. And by the way, Mnuchin, that politician guy, I keep forgetting which office he holds. He says, "You won't starve in this emergency. You can always get fast food. Just you can even call ahead and have it ready when you get there." I think I'd rather starve than live on Big Macs. They don't even taste as good as they used to. Once or twice a year, I will go to a McDonald's for one of those fish burgers, fillet of fish. My phone and tablet. Oh, someone sent me a Facebook message. Well, anyway, I cannot imagine eating fast food every day. Maybe KFC or maybe tacos from wherever, but not every day. Please. Let's see. I have to tell my friend in Arizona. Still no snow here, and I'm live on YouTube. Okay, what is all this stuff? I can't share the link once I've started the show. Oh, I guess I could, whatever. Wendy's is, I've never eaten at Wendy's. I hear they have square hamburger buns. Now, H salt fish and chips or Popeyes, sure. But we don't have them up here. We have a McDonald's and a 7-Eleven. Once in a while, I just get a craving and buy a hot dog from 7-Eleven. I've even been known to get a slice of pizza. But I don't even like pizza. Their chicken is always those crazy boneless wings. Call it chicken drummies. Yeah. No, thank you. Now, if they had a drumstick for real, yeah, sure. Anyway, our local market has a deli that makes awesome fried chicken and awesome barbecue chicken and awesome rotisserie chicken. I'm making myself hungry. Well, I got my cabbage. A friend brought me the cabbage when she shopped. So I made homemade coleslaw. By the way, the recipe's in my little kind of a joke cookbook on Amazon. Uh, a cookbook for the kitchen challenged by the kitchen challenged. But people swear by my coleslaw, and so do I. Taquitos, yeah, but 7-Eleven tends to put a lot of hot peppers in the Mexican food, and I'm a gringa. I can't tolerate hot peppers. Bell peppers are okay now, not when I was a kid. When I was growing up, I thought barbecue potato chips were too peppery hot. I didn't even notice that they were sweet. I can eat them now, and I can get medium salsa instead of mild to put on things, but I don't dip my potato chips in it. Oh, strontium, good for you and YouTube, studying ancient Greek. I hope you mean, do you mean the language or the culture? Hi, Isla Ren. I'm just babbling because, hey, everybody's stuck at home. Everything's closed. I'm bored, so I thought you guys might be bored as well. Let's see. Oh, on the book that I'm writing about Philip K. Dick's exegesis, right now, ooh, the language, modern Greek, ancient Greek. I know a little ancient Greek. I'm not good at pronouncing it, and there are some words I have to look up because I can't spell them. But a lot of it, once you get the alphabet, you'll recognize where we have used those ancient Greek words in English words, especially in science. Having studied quite a bit of science in college, because even though my 2-year degree was in foreign language, I was actually majoring in pre-med. Uh, I've come to the conclusion that most science is simply a matter of making up words that nobody understands for things that everybody knows. By the way, the common cold is a coronavirus. It just isn't this new one. Some types of flu are actually a coronavirus. You see, cold and flu are common terms that they can refer to just the symptoms you have. If you have a cold, you might have a fever, you might not, but it'll be like 99 or 99 and a half. If you have the flu, you're looking at 101 or more. Technically, the norovirus is not the flu because it's primarily nausea and diarrhea, the symptoms. But when I had it at age 3, maybe 4, but I think I was 3 because grandma was still alive, my mom's grandma. Um, it hit my guts the hardest, but it also hit my lungs, and my nose was constantly running. It almost killed me. I had a near death experience in which an angel literally did really save my life. I wanted to go to this place where all my friends and family were, the ones who have passed. And he said no and shoved me back, and that rolled me over. So instead of lying on my back when I vomited in my sleep, I was on my side. I would have choked to death. That's the short version. I didn't really know or recognize the people in this life after death place, but I understood that they were my ancestors and some of their friends. The angel looked like an ordinary human dressed in, let's see, a plaid flannel shirt and I think it was a Levi jacket and blue jeans. But he was standing to one side, and I knew he was. And I find it kind of coincidental that Michael Landon played an angel in that TV series. Yeah, well, I, as a teenager, after all kinds of stuff going on, I decided I wanted to die. I didn't kill myself, I didn't try to, but I had a really nasty kidney infection with a very high fever, so I decided to just go to bed and not tell anybody. And maybe that would take care of it. I was 17, but very close to 18. Well, I decided I was hungry and I knew there were bananas in the kitchen, so I went out to get one. And my baby sister, who was 9 years younger, came flying in the front door. I mean, she threw it open, slammed it shut, and just ran straight down the entry, looking up at the ceiling, not watching where she was going. And before I could get out of the way, she ran right into me. And I said, "Watch where you're going." And all of a sudden, Mom, the devil's sister, was right there. She'd been taking a nap, which she did quite often. Oh, I'm sorry, Isla Wren. Well, anyway, of course, I was the bad guy for yelling at my little sister. Then Mom found out I was seriously ill. No, she didn't call a doctor. That would cost money and I wasn't worth it. She called my older brother, who was a nurse, and he got me penicillin and said to take it every 4 hours. Well, I was still delirious and I didn't understand that that was like 3 times a day. I wasn't sleeping well, so I was taking it every 4 hours around the clock, which is like 6 times a day. Of course, it wasn't too long before I developed a serious penicillin allergy, and I really don't like anaphylactic shock. The one time it hit me, I was alone, but I was in bed and I had a glass of water and a supply of Benadryl, so I just took a whole bunch of Benadryl capsules and I lived through it. But it could have got me. I wasn't near the phone, so I couldn't call 911. I couldn't get up. It's nasty stuff when you have that kind of reaction. I'm lucky I didn't pass out before I could swallow the pills. Passed out afterward. My dad managed to get his wish and pass away at home. He'd had a major stroke, and the hospital didn't want to let him go home, but he did convince the family to take him home because he had a contract for hospice care, so he would be cared for. He was 86 and eventually fell asleep and never woke up. But even at that point, 86, half his body not working, unable to speak clearly, I had to tell him, "You're dying." He was not accepting it because he had to do the taxes for his client. He was an accountant, and his best client needed the quarterly taxes done for 3 stores, and Dad had done 2 of them, and he just wasn't going to die till he did the third one. I mean, he knew he was dying, but not right away because he had to do those taxes. And he had been sitting at his desk with only one hand working, doing his client's taxes. That's determination. Well, anyway, I kind of miss Dad. I mean, he had faults, sure, but I don't miss Mom. That's the saddest thing is when you die and nobody misses you. My brothers and my sister and I all have good reasons not to miss her presence in our lives. Oh, so sorry, Isla Ren. I'm 65, going on 66 in June, but for all my various disabilities, I'm generally in good health as far as disease goes. When I was in my 40s, I had scarlet fever. And well, he died young compared to other people in our family, except his father died at 70 because he broke his hip, and due to high blood pressure, Grandpa couldn't tolerate the surgery. It got to the point where they tried it anyway, and he died in surgery for his broken hip. Well, they didn't do anything for me when I had scarlet fever. They said, don't take aspirin, which hadn't occurred to me, but just like measles, they don't want you taking aspirin. It can have bad side effects when you have one of those viruses. And isolate myself. I was staying in my dad's spare room, and he and his wife, not Mom, second wife, they were very old. And his wife had porphyria, so she had to be extra careful. Yeah, Rye's syndrome. Oh, and you don't want to have measles when you're pregnant. You could end up with a seriously challenged infant. I and sometimes the infant, the baby doesn't even survive the first year. Anyway, um, so I isolated myself in the room, had my own bathroom, which was a good thing, and I just had lots of bottled water and lots of lemonade and a bedside radio. And I know when the fever broke because I was dreaming, and in my dream I was a lamb grazing next to my mother, this big old sheep, when a gigantic bird of prey, I think an eagle, came down from the sky and grabbed me by my rib cage and started lifting me up. And I felt those claws in my ribs, and I cried out, "Ma!" just like a little lamb. I cried out so loud it woke me up. But that's when my fever broke, and after that, I just had to be sure I didn't pass the virus to anyone else. Then, about 2 years ago, I had the measles. My stupid doctor, who keeps pushing the flu shot, never offered me the MMR, which I would take. So I was exposed to someone who cheerfully announced, "I got the flu shot a couple days ago." Not the flu shot, I'm sorry, the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella. She got the flu shot too. Well, when you first get that MMR, you are shedding the virus, and people can catch it. It isn't exactly killed, it's just kind of disabled. And I caught the measles from her. Thank you very much. I wasn't terribly ill, but I did run out of Kleenex, so I switched to paper napkins. And now that's my go to for a runny nose. Napkins are bigger, they hold up better, and they're cheaper. So, anyway, I had to isolate myself. I had to miss important lioness meetings. Most of the ladies in that club and some of the men, yes, we have men, we love men, are, elderly or immune compromised or both. Well, anyway, Lioness is going away. Lions International has decided that we all have to become Lions clubs. But we can call ourselves something like the Crestline Lioness Lions. But much of our regalia, the patches and pins and stuff, has to go away because we're not supposed to display the lioness logo unless it also has the lion's logo. Let me see if I can find an example. Mm, yummy. Is it? Oh, yeah. So, my sash. I can show this patch. It says lions and then down below lioness. That's allowed. But Lioness Club of the Year does not have a lion's logo, so it has to go. It has a little lion's logo in the middle, so I might get away with it. On the other hand, my badge. Ooh, you can't really see it. It's got my name, and then it says Crestline Lioness Club, and it has our lazy L pin, which never stays put. Can't use that. And one thing I'm very proud of is our 40th anniversary pin. Doesn't say Lions, can't use it. This club celebrated 40 years of service a couple years ago. Yeah, the club was established in 1978 and I joined in '04. Some of my pens, oh, my 100% secretary pen. It has a little lion's thing in the middle. I think I can use that. But this cool lioness badge with the little lion cub, which was designed by a member who has since passed away. She was an artist. Can't have this. It doesn't say lions. And it's just sad. Oh, and this one's really cool. Can't use it. Doesn't say lions. I might use it for something else. It doesn't really. It doesn't. It has a lazy L way down in the corner, but I don't care. I like it. And I have a proud lioness pin, which I earned by doing various service things. And it doesn't say lions. Well, I'll keep the memorabilia because who knows? Might mean something to my child or grandchild, or it might be worth money down the road. Yeah, they didn't irradiate my thyroid. I wouldn't have let them do it if they'd offered, but I am able to supplement iodine primarily by eating shrimp. But when you put actual iodine and not that stupid mercurochrome on a cut or a scrape, some of it does get into your bloodstream. I wouldn't drink or eat iodine. That's a bad idea. But you can paint your throat with it just a little bit, a couple of drops on your fingertip, and go like that. Your thyroid's somewhere in here. Strontium left us? Oh, Isla is leaving us. Thank you, Isla. Okay, let me put this away. Um, we can keep our colors of purple and gold. Yeah, I see. Thank you, Strontium. Um, the lions generally wear a dark, almost navy blue and gold, and lioness have been wearing purple, but purple is acceptable, purple and gold for a lion. And I love purple. I'm kind of into a dark blue, maybe navy, although navy's almost black, but I love purple. Anyway, I'm just bumbling around. Now back to the book I'm working on, The X in Exegesis. Oh, yeah, Erasmus was a, mm, he's, I want to say medieval, but I think he's more Renaissance, about 100 years before the King James translation. 50 to 100 years before, Erasmus produced what we call the Textus Receptus of the New Testament. He examined the manuscripts in ancient Greek that were available to him at the time, and these manuscripts were not complete. They were fragments. So he compared what he had and came up with um, a complete New Testament in Greek. And the King James scholars used that in when they translated the New Testament. Well, lions are everywhere. They're international. I at one of our local liquor stores, the Korean lady, well, she's American now, says that when she was a child in South Korea, the lions came and gave all the school children dictionaries. Not English, not Korean English, just Korean dictionaries. And she has always loved the lions because of that. Whenever there's a disaster, the lions are there. But unlike Red Cross and all these other agencies, the lions have to get official permission before they can start helping. Although sometimes a lion or two will come along and just ask an individual, "Do you need help with that? Can I buy you a sandwich?" There's, I think our current, yeah, the current, whatever you call the head CEO of the Lions Club, it's a nonprofit, by the way, so I don't know what they call her, is a woman. She's not American, but I forget where she's from. Might be Peru. Lions clubs outside the United States have been complaining for years and decades about lioness clubs and women. They don't let women join in some of these countries, especially in South America. My aunt and uncle and their two sons were lions. That's how I first heard about them. But, you know, I bought some stuff at a yard sale. Didn't notice that they were lioness. Then I bought some See's candies out in front of the grocery store. Didn't notice that they were lioness. But then I made a donation on White Cane Day and I said, "Oh, you're lioness. I want to join." And that's how I got into lioness. So sometimes they're there and you just don't notice. You just know, hey, it's some kind of charity and I can buy a pound of See's candies. Somebody will eat it or something will eat it, kind of like Girl Scout cookies. But you know, and that's how it was for me until I went, "Oh, White Cane, I have to join." Well, it kept raining and raining, so I didn't go to the meetings. And finally, one day, they meet once a month. It was raining and foggy and cold out, but I grabbed my umbrella, got in my Jeep, and drove down there anyway because I was tired of waiting for good weather. And it was awesome. The Lioness Clubs began when the men had their wives cook dinner for them. They were just kind of, cooking dinner for the lions. And the women finally decided, well, they won't let us join lions, so we'll form our own club. And they started Lioness. Not sure how long ago that was. I know that our particular club was founded in 1978. I'm sure there must be lions. Oh, I guess you don't use the phone book anymore. Well, go on the internet, any search engine will do, and just put in Lions International. They have a website and they can tell you where your nearest club is. We have some people commuting from Big Bear to visit our club, and some people in our club driving to Big Bear to visit their club. And yeah, it's maybe a mile as the crow flies, but it's a 45-minute drive on mountain roads, sometimes longer if there's weather or a traffic snaggle. Is that a word? Yeah, snaggle. Snag. No, people just don't notice. I didn't notice, and I was looking for them because I had relatives who were lions. Phone book, what's that? Yeah, well, they still send us one here on the mountain. I'll show it to you. This is our phone book. It's like, I think it's 9 by 6, something like that, and not very thick. The local pages. The see the phone company used to deliver big stacks of telephone books to our post office, and rather than try to fit it into your little box or give you a notice to go pick it up, they just put a rack of telephone books out in the lobby. The phone company makes a lot of money on those ads in the yellow pages. Anyway, um, they don't seem to be doing that anymore. Not in this little town. It would be for Crestline and Lake Arrowhead. We're kind of the poor side of town. We're not incorporated cities. We're just county zones. But Lake Arrowhead has where people have more money than we do. They have membership organization. So if you own a house on the lake, you can tie up your boat and go fishing and stuff, but you pay dues. It's the Lake Arrowhead Association, and it's expensive, but they're somewhat protected from the bureaucrats in the county government. We are not. It took 40 years to get the dam on Lake Gregory repaired. It has been 40 years since the state of California engineers first told our county government that this dam is going to fail. All it takes is one good sized earthquake, and we're on an earthquake fault. Well, next to an earthquake fault. Highway 18 cannot be widened in the stretch that we call the Narrows because of the earthquake fault. The highway's right next to one. And the pass kind of between the San Bernardino Mountains and I'm always blank on it. Well, that other mountain where people ski, not Mammoth. Anyway, Highway 15 that you take to go from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. It's on a branch of the San Andreas, um, the San Jacinto Fault. Okay, now I just gotta look that up. Mountains near San Bernardino. Not in San Bernardino, near. Um, okay, other mountains near San Bernardino. Uh, Transverse ranges. Okay, transverse mountain ranges in southern California. This other mountain is in San Bernardino County, you turkey. Can't come up with it. And I'm afraid I'll lose the internet if I try. I don't know what it is. I'll have the name on the tip of my brain and it goes away. And once again, you've distracted me from talking about Philip K. Dick and his obsession with the idea that the early Christians expected the world to come to an end during their lifetimes. He got that from reading about Albert Schweitzer, the I always thought of him as an 1800s missionary, but he actually didn't die till 1965. Albert Schweitzer mistakenly believed that the early Christians expected the end of the world, the apocalypse, the revelation to come in their lifetime. It's from an it's from a confusion about the part where Jesus says, "Some among you will not die until blah blah blah." Well, what Jesus was talking about was 6 days later when Jesus took Peter and not sure who the others were. I remember Peter. He took several of his disciples to a mountain and there they saw the transfiguration. Jesus began to glow. That's what he was talking about. This generation shall not pass before the Son of Man, whatever. He was talking about the transfiguration. I think that's it. Pretty sure, yeah, that's anyway. Peter thinks that Jesus is going to be king and sit on the throne. Well, um, that is the beginning of the kingdom of God or kingdom of heaven on earth. But it's only the beginning. Anyway, I'm mulling through this and doing more reading in order to add that to the X in exegesis. And I really thought I could finish it this month. But with all that's going on, I think realistically, April, mid to late April. I'm amazed that the internet is holding up today. Totally amazed. So, anyway, like many lecturers and pastors and preachers like to say, The kingdom of heaven is important, but it is not the end of the world. And if you read the book of Revelation to the end, it doesn't say all the saints go up to heaven somewhere way out in outer space. It says heaven comes down to the earth with the new Jerusalem, which is part of heaven. There's weird sound outside. It's either a dog or a female human screaming, but it doesn't sound like someone in distress as much as like someone who's bored and lonely. Oh, it's the neighbor's children. They do that all the time, and I keep wondering what they're going to do when they're really in distress and they really need help, and everybody thinks they're just playing because they do that all the time. Criminy. Okay, another cigarette. Uh, anyway, I'm also going to have to look deeply into Nietzsche. Let's see, I think it's Nietzsche. Yeah, we spell checker didn't flag it because Phil and Albert Schweitzer were obsessed with Nietzsche and his depressing philosophy kind of added to the end of the world craze. And we had these prophets predicting the date, even though Jesus said no one knows the hour or the day, not even the Son, but only the Father. And of course, in the early 20th century, it was Amy Semple McPherson who founded the Foursquare Gospel Church, where Mom started going. So I went to their Sunday school a few times. I had very little religious upbringing, but I do remember that. And oddly, because I was small for my age, they first sent me to the wrong class. It was much younger children. And I said to the teacher, I think I'm in the wrong class. So she asked, how old are you? I told her, and she sent me to the right room for Sunday school. Anyway, Mom was really into this. The world's coming to an end. And when it didn't happen, she became an atheist. But if she were alive today, she might have renewed faith. It looks like the end of the world. It is not. How does that song go and who sang it? It's the end of the world as we know it. I'm terrible at names. Um, well, yeah, things are quite different. But this too shall pass. Okay, let's see. REM, thank you, Strontium. I'm pretty sure that by the time we get summer or even a nice warm spring, this virus will die back. This virus is not heat resistant. Most viruses are not. They can't survive when it's 80 degrees. Hi, Cheryl. Didn't see you here. See, that's one of the things Mom, the devil's sister, deprived me of music. Now, I can appreciate the big bands and the musical comedies like The Music Man, but in the late 60s, when rock and roll was just everywhere, I wasn't allowed to listen to it. On my 16th birthday, my brother, Steve, bought me a 45, these little vinyl discs with the big hole in the middle that you played on a record player. He bought me a single, a 45 single. I don't remember what the flip side was, but it was Neil Sedaka singing Happy Birthday, Sweet 16. Mom would not allow me to play the record on my birthday because she didn't want to hear that rock and roll. And worse, while I was at school, she went through my room, found that record, and threw it in the trash so I never got to hear it. She was always going through our things and she'd throw out the good stuff and leave the trash, and she'd keep things that she wanted. Decades later, I found my brother's microscope in a box of Mom's stuff, and on top of that, she'd broken it, but she kept it. I'm wanting to shout a cuss word again, but I'm restraining myself. Although my videos are not for children, I want to make it, user friendly and not cuss. Well, let's say witch with a W. So I didn't learn much about rock and roll until I was in college, and Chapman College, before they sold out and became a great big university, I was an undergrad at the college. We two of the professors did it at first an annual show, but it got to be too much work, so they made it every 2 years. Um, a rock and roll show with students impersonating the stars of rock and roll. Um, I kind of knew about the Big Bopper and Richie Valens. I didn't know they'd died in a plane crash. Who was the third guy? It was the Big Bopper, Richie Valens, and one other guy. The day the music died, I can't come up with his name. And Waylon Jennings felt survivor's guilt because he went on the bus, not the airplane. And the last thing Richie Valens said to him was, I hope you freeze. Yeah, Buddy Holly, thank you. Buddy Holly, no, I, I think it was Richie Valens, might have been Buddy Holly, said to Waylon Jennings, I hope you freeze to death on the bus. You see, the heater on the bus was broken and it was cold out and raining. So Waylon Jennings said, I hope your plane crashes. And then it did. No, I think you spelled Buddy Holly right, Strontium. See, I'm still, not only am I bad at names, I didn't learn about all this cool rock and roll stuff till I was in my 20s, late 20s at that. I got here and there, like at my high school, people would play rock and roll on the radio, but the top 40 DJs quite often did not tell you the name of the song or who was singing it. So I learned that Cream, I think it was Cream, recorded the sunshine of your life. You are the sun. No, in the sunshine of God. I can't. I can almost hear it. Anyway, yeah. Well, the last thing I said to Mom, it wasn't in so many words, but it really was drop dead, and she did. I don't miss her, but 2 years later, I broke down and cried when I found her stash of other people's prescription medications. Tranquilizers, time released methamphetamine, all kinds of psychiatric drugs. Many of them just loose in a shoebox without labels, but I recognized Librium because she got me put on it as one of her control measures when I was a teenager and argued with her. Oh, frankly, looking back, I think I was right. When I was an adult, I used to call her for advice so I would know what not to do. So, anyway, um, I had heard some of this music, of course, but not at home. I don't want to hear that rock and roll. I happen to love country music. We used to call it S kicking, Buck Owens, Johnny Cash, of course, um, Waylon Jennings. I've discovered that many of Waylon Jennings' songs have the same chords on the guitar and pretty much the same tune. But it's okay, it isn't plagiarism because he wrote them all. They just have different words. And I love them anyway. And quite often, when one composer, especially with rock and roll, accuses another of plagiarism, it turns out that they both got it from Mozart or Beethoven in the first place. And Mozart and Beethoven can't sue you for plagiarism. Yeah, well, Waylon Jennings went through a really rough period of alcoholism and just be in real trouble. He got cleaned up, but he still died young. Mom wouldn't let us listen to Waylon Jennings because that was rockabilly, too much like rock and roll. And I do love things like Camelot, and oh, she wouldn't allow me to uh, listen to South Pacific because it was too adult. It involves an interracial marriage. Uh, they live in, I don't know, Hawaii, the Philippines, Indonesia, and the widower's first wife and mother of his children was one of the natives. And that was a scandal. You just had to be there. It was the 1960s. Let's see what. So I have to get into Nietzsche and Albert Schweitzer in order to put together a chapter of the X in exegesis. Why do I say X? Well, I don't want to say EX. South Pacific is a musical. Yeah. When the white woman finds out that her fiance has mixed race children, she sings, I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair. Mom had the LP of the soundtrack and would not let me listen to it. Too adult. But of course, on my own, I've seen it online, and I think I saw it on a videotape. I'm not a Luddite, but I still have a working VCR and some videotapes. Aw, sorry, Henning. Catch you later. Is that Dakota DK? Parcel lockdown. Thank you. Well, I'm gonna head on out of here pretty soon anyway. And in my experience, it has been easier to listen to the replay than to watch a live video. My internet gives me that hourglass of doom quite often. Um, I smell food cooking, and I'm not cooking anything that I know of. I have been known to burn up pans because I forgot, but all I made today was coffee. Hmm. I'm gonna. Well, I have cold cereal, and the milk's still good, and I have my various um, snacks like Ritz crackers. They've spoiled me. I can't. I don't really go for soda crackers anymore because Ritz are so much better. They taste kind of buttery and they're almost fluffy. Anyway, I watched a YouTube video on how to make soda crackers, but they're cheap. So unless the stores run out of soda crackers, I don't have to make my own. One nice thing is the gas company has agreed not to shut off anybody's service during the coronavirus emergency, even if you haven't paid your bill. I managed to pay half of my bill and get the other half delayed, and I finally got in an application to the HEAP program, something to do with our um, being in the mountains and having tremendous heating bills in the winter. So if you're low income, you can get some help with your utility bills, just one of them. So I chose gas because that's my primary source of heat. So they should be paying the other half for me. Both strontium. He thought that the early Christians expected the end of the world to come before they died. He was wrong, by the way. I'll get into that another time. But I got this from an Anglican scholar, former bishop, retired uh, professor. Forget whether he taught at Oxford or Cambridge. Oh, he taught at both Oxford and Cambridge and McGill in Canada. N.T. Wright, Wright with a W. Um, he put it together. There you go. And he goes by Tom, his middle name. But If you search YouTube, you'll find N.T. Wright. Um, and he's very old. Anyway, I learned a lot from watching his videos. I've been watching, Michael Heiser and John something, the Irish guy. Let me see. Um, oh well. Anyway, I've found even better scholarship from N.T. Wright, so I might have to buy one of his books. But I know for a fact that Phil was obsessed with the end of the world, and that's why he thought that we must still be in the first century AD, and everything in history after the first century is just an illusion because the end of the world has to come while some of the disciples are still alive. Well, that was wrong. He was mistaken, but it made sense in what Phil knew and believed. It was logical and rational. Anyway, I'm going to have to scoot on out of here soon. It's been almost an hour and a half. I forget whether South Pacific is Lerner and Lowe or Rogers and Hammerstein. Oh, Mom didn't mind my watching West Side Story. It actually came on the television, and she got the soundtrack album. I could play that, even though it was all about Puerto Ricans and Puerto Ricans and Polish people in New York City. And by the way, Puerto Ricans are Americans. Puerto Rico is still an American territory. Once in a while, they have a vote for independence like the Philippines, but it never passes in Puerto Rico. When it passed in the Philippines, we said, okay, fine, no problem. But then they wanted our military bases back. And we were kind of hemming and hawing until the volcano buried one of the bases, and we said, here, you can have it, it's yours. But Filipinos who were born before the independence are American citizens. They don't have to immigrate, they are Americans. And I forget exactly when that was, but I, I'm thinking Clinton was president, so that'd be the 1990s. So approximately anyone over 30 who's Filipino is an American citizen. And I haven't heard much since the news got dominated by the coronavirus, but Puerto Rico still needs help. They need disaster aid. In the best of times, they are a disaster, and then they had that hurricane, and they have not recovered from it. And part of the problem is their government is so corrupt that the aid never gets to the people who need it. They still haven't repaired the streets and the houses and the utilities. Their electricity is kind of sketchy anyway. But when the lines are down, there isn't any electricity. I wonder if they're going to put us on one of those rationing things where you can have electricity for a couple hours a day. Maybe having food in the refrigerator isn't such a good idea. Maybe it should all be canned or dried. Well, anyway, We will get through this. The virus will probably come back next winter. But it is kind of scary. It's more deadly than ordinary flu. I looked up measles, and the mortality for measles is less than 1%. So you're more likely to die from the flu. And that's a global statistic, worldwide. So it includes countries where they don't have quite as good an infrastructure as we do, whether it's medical care or just safety and comfort in your home. Coronavirus, we can't really know because China has lied. First, they said it didn't exist. They arrested any doctors who dared to speak up. Not just that one guy, other doctors as well. Or they threatened them and made them shut up. I have a feeling that maybe in China, and this is scary, but maybe they have a lot fewer cases because so many have died. I hate to say it, but one of the major factors is that Chinese men smoke like chimneys. They chain smoke cigarettes. And of course, talking about that makes me want a cigarette, but I'll resist the urge. I'm still using various means of, if not quitting, at least cutting way down. Yeah, electricity, and I can't even get solar panels. Even if I could get enough sunlight, which is questionable because of all the trees here. I'm talking cedar trees 150 feet tall or even taller, and oak trees 100 feet tall. So even if I could get enough sunlight onto solar panels, one fallen tree branch would break them, and repairing them would be financially impossible. Some people up here have generators, but then you have to have fuel for the generator. Now some have the kind that hooks up to your gas line that comes to your house. So as long as we have natural gas, that's okay. Well, my older and smarter brother has solar panels, but he lives in the flatland and it works there. But they he'd have to cover his entire roof with solar panels, and he could only afford the monthly fee to get half his roof covered. Anyway, our lovely wants to ban natural gas in California. Oh, it's a greenhouse gas. Well, we aren't exactly piping it into the atmosphere, and it doesn't leak all that often. I've never had a leak. Yeah, one of the gas company's storage leaked, but it didn't leak the gas, it leaked the stuff they add to make it smell bad. So that if you have a leak in your home, you'll smell it and you'll go, ew. Um, Up here on the mountain, our electricity is not all that reliable. We have outages. It's getting better as Edison upgrades the infrastructure, but in the weather we get, especially the wind, you and the snow, a snow load on a line can bring it down. you have to be prepared for power outages, and it can take them a couple days. And last November, it took, in some cases, a full week to get it back up, primarily because the snowplows couldn't get through because the roads were covered in tree branches, and the crews that removed the tree branches couldn't get to them because of the snow. They eventually worked it out, probably with guys with shovels. I wasn't watching. My street wasn't badly hit. I'm on a flat and relatively level part of town, which is good because I really cannot do stairs anymore. I can, but I pay for it. Kind of like, yeah, I can lift a carton of milk one time and then I pay for it. So I get the little cartons. I can't lift a gallon and pour it into a cup. I spill all, start shaking because it's too heavy for me. And of course, cat litter comes in 10-pound sacks. So I have someone else get it and bring it to me and put it down on the floor so I can drag it to the litter box and then scoop it out into the box. Because if I try to lift I've tried this, try to lift the cat litter and pour it in, every darn time I drop it and the litter goes all over the floor and I have to sweep it up. Yeah, so our brilliant governor thinks that we should not use natural gas, and he actually, I think he passed this measure that new homes that are being constructed cannot be hooked up to natural gas. They have to be all electric. I'd rather cook on a what do you call it? Fondue pot with a candle than try to cook electric. I have tried it. I'm no good at it. It doesn't work for me. Electric, even the ones that are supposedly instant on, instant off, I just can't do it. And besides, how am I going to roast a marshmallow on an electric stove? Huh? Guess I'll have to roast marshmallows with matches until they decide that the match heads are greenhouse gases and we can't have matches anymore. Uh, oh well, I really got to get going. I'm just babbling now. And I must do the reading and writing to get this book done. Someday it'll be done. Not March, but probably April. So thank you all for listening. That isn't how you spell you. My keyboard is evil. Listening. And I'll be back on Sunday at about noon Pacific time, assuming I have internet and assuming it stays up. Yeah, I have a hot plate. It's okay for boiling water in the tea kettle, and that's about it. It's better than trying to, boil water in a microwave. But I just can't deal with electric cooking. I suppose I could fire up the old Weber kettle with some charcoal. Now that's some real air pollution. So I imagine they're going to outlaw charcoal grills, which, in my opinion, are the best way to cook a good steak. And maybe in a week or two, I can afford to have a good steak. It might cost me 15 or $20, but I would really love to. See, I almost never eat meat, and when I do, it's usually fish. sometimes chicken, but once in a while I need a good beef steak. Just gotta have it. Anyway, the best way to cook a steak is on a charcoal grill, not a propane grill, although that's kind of okay if you have those little briquettes that make wood smoke. You put them in a shallow pan with some water and put them on the steak is sitting. Oh, hi, Timothy. And thank you, Timothy. Timothy's the guy who put me on TransferWise, where I got, oops, spelled it wrong, where I got a much appreciated donation from Timothy. It is showing up on the website today. So I can pay the bill for the phone and internet now. It's just that the service for it is kind of unreliable, but not too bad. It's the best I could get on my budget in this location. And frankly, for the cell phone, all over Southern California, Verizon is the best. I just need to get a better, more reliable, and possibly cheaper internet. So I'll be working on that as well as my book. It's going to kill me writing this book, but somebody has to do it. And I try to explain why Phil was not a Gnostic even though he thought he was. Phil did not understand Gnosticism. Uh, he thought it was dualism like Zoroastrianism or possibly Manichaeism. I haven't looked into that too much. I should look into both because he discussed them so often. But Phil's idea was that there were two gods, a good god and a bad god, and they battled each other. That doesn't happen in Gnosticism. In Gnosticism, Yahweh is kind of God's grandson, to put it simplistically. On top of that, God is not a person, God is an it, way out there in space, doesn't care about you, doesn't even know you exist. And we were made by the evil God, Yahweh. And that's why this world is so filled with evil, because the God who made it is evil. And he made us to be slaves, or he had his archons make us. And the archons are evil. Phil thought the archons were good. Hmm. Maybe I haven't read the whole exegesis, so maybe he eventually caught on that they're bad. But anyway, um, he never told me that. Uh, the good God and the bad God don't battle each other in Gnosticism. In Gnosticism, if you learn all the secrets, you can go to heaven and be with the eons or emanations from the one true God. But that isn't open to women because only men have the divine spark. Women are out of luck. When women die, they die. And most men, when they die, they're dead. That's it. That's the end. But if you have this special knowledge, this gnosis, to heaven and reunite with Sophia and all the other, I think there's 8 pairs of eons or emanations. And by the way, one of the emanations is Christ, and one of the other emanations is Jesus, and neither one of them is the guy who died on the cross. Gnosticism, there are different forms, and they do disagree on many of the details, but as far as the general framework, that's it. God is just this impersonal force, doesn't know about you, so certainly doesn't care about you. But one of his eons, Sophia, by the way, foolishly creates Yahweh and he turns out to be evil. And Yahweh creates the archons to serve him. And then either Yahweh or the archons create humans to be their slaves. Well, Timothy, I'm still on episode 2 of Hellier. I got interrupted and had to turn it off, but I think I'll start watching from the beginning again. Hellier is interesting. They're very careful investigators, and they, especially when they don't know something, they admit it, and they do the, I want to say book research, but it's mostly internet research to fill in their knowledge. Gnosticism is interesting. You should listen to, uh, oh, what's his name? Miguel Connor. He has a YouTube channel and I forget what it's called. But you can probably find it under his name. He has this Gnostic radio program. I've been his guest. You know, I don't go, oh my God, it's the devil. No, it's just a worldview with which I disagree. I don't understand the Trinity, the crucifixion, the Father in heaven. But I do know that Jesus said when you pray, it's the Lord's Prayer, which should be called the disciples' prayer. It's what they pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I'm stopping there for a reason. Thy kingdom come on earth, thy will be done on earth. That is the kingdom of heaven, here on earth, on a new earth. But it's this earth remade in God's image as we were made. Read the book of Revelation to the end, where the new Jerusalem comes down and we have heaven on earth and we're resurrected into real bodies on a real earth. So if you think you're going to go to heaven and live with God and the angels, you're an Epicurean. That's what Epicurus thought, that most people, when they die, they just died. That's it. But some lucky few can go to heaven and be with God and the angels. If God exists, he isn't even sure that God exists. All right. So if you want to know now, um, oh dear, I can almost come up with the name. I can't remember their last names. Come on, spell checker, quit playing with me. They have a YouTube channel too. Um, on blank. And I just watched one of their YouTube videos the other day, but I'm totally blank. I haven't saved any links to the two Tims. They have a name for their show, but something to do with UFOs, and they quite often talk about UFOs. Uh, uh, Something to do with UFOs. That's the best I can remember. I really do have to go. We're headed on toward 2 hours, and I'm hungry. And another Ritz cracker just won't do it for me anymore. Let's see. There we go. I found a thumbs up. And while I was doing that, I also found our current weather. Last night, the thunder, oh, night, I didn't see the lightning flashes, so it must have been off to the north out in the high desert. But night before last, it rained constantly. And they'll try to tell us we got an inch. But my rain Pacific time, and